Three Most Notorious Psychopathic Killers in History, Part 2. Welcome back to our exploration of history's most terrifying serial killers. In Part 1, we examined Ted Bundy's charm, Jeffrey Dahmer's isolation, and Harold Shipman's betrayal of medical trust. Today, we continue our journey into darkness with three more predators who haunted their communities and left behind legacies of unspeakable horror. From the smiling clown with bodies beneath his house to the phantom who vanished into Victorian London's fog. Let's dive in. WAYNE GACY, the killer clown. There's something uniquely disturbing about clowns. They're supposed to make us laugh, to entertain children, to bring joy. But WAYNE GACY transformed this innocent image into something nightmarish, forever linking the painted smile with unspeakable horror. He was a respected community figure, a successful businessman, and a beloved children's entertainer. He was also one of America's most prolific serial killers, responsible for the murders of at least 33 young men and boys. Born on March 17, 1942, in Chicago, Illinois, Gacy's childhood was marked by violence and humiliation. His father was an abusive alcoholic who beat Gacy and his siblings, constantly telling John that he was stupid, worthless, that he would never amount to anything. Gacy desperately sought his father's approval, but never received it. This created a deep need to be liked, to be respected, to prove his worth to the world. As an adult, Gacy worked hard to build a respectable life. He became a successful contractor, managed KFC restaurants, was active in the Democratic Party, and even met First Lady Rosalynn Carter, who praised his community work. He created Pogo the Clown and Patches the Clown, characters he used to entertain children at hospitals, charity events, and birthday parties. Neighbors and friends saw him as a pillar of the community, a generous man who threw elaborate summer parties and was always willing to help. But behind closed doors, Gacy was a monster. His killing spree began in 1972 and continued until 1978. He targeted teenage boys and young men, many of them runaways or from troubled homes, people who wouldn't immediately be missed. Gacy would lure them to his house with promises of construction work, then ply them with alcohol. Once his victims were vulnerable, he would handcuff them, claiming it was a magic trick he wanted to show them. Then the torture would begin. Gacy would sexually assault his victims for hours, sometimes days, taunting them, performing a routine he called the rope trick, where he would slowly strangle them, revive them and strangle them again, extending their suffering. He would lecture them about morality and sin even as he tortured them. Finally, he would kill them, usually by strangulation or asphyxiation. The most horrifying aspect of Gacy's crimes was where he disposed of his victims. He buried 26 of them in the crawl space beneath his house, creating a grotesque cemetery under his very foundation. When the crawl space filled up, he started throwing bodies into the Des Plaines River. The smell from his house became so bad that he told neighbors and visitors it was a moisture problem or sewer gas. No one suspected the truth. Gacy's downfall came in December 1978 when 15-year-old Robert Piacest disappeared after telling his mother he was going to talk to a contractor about a summer job. That contractor was WAYNE GACY. Police obtained a search warrant for Gacy's home, and what they found shocked even experienced investigators. The smell was overwhelming. A search of the crawl space revealed human remains in various states of decomposition, some reduced to skeletons, others more recent. In total, 29 bodies were found at his property, with 4 more recovered from the river. Gacy was arrested and, after initially denying everything, eventually confessed to killing 33 young men and boys. During his trial, his lawyers tried to argue insanity, but the jury wasn't convinced. How could someone so organized, so successful in business and community affairs, be legally insane? In 1980, he was convicted and sentenced to death. Gacy spent 14 years on death row, during which time he took up painting, creating disturbing images of clowns and famous figures. He maintained his innocence, claiming he was set up, that he only disposed of bodies for others. He showed no genuine remorse. On May 10th, 1994, WAYNE GACY was executed by lethal injection at Stateville Correctional Center in Illinois. Outside the prison, crowds gathered, some celebrating, others protesting the death penalty. His final words were defiant: "Kiss my ass." Jack the Ripper, the Phantom of Whitechapel, committing murders so brutal and methodical that they changed criminal investigation forever and created the modern concept of the serial killer. In the autumn of 1888, Whitechapel was one of London's most desperate neighbourhoods. Overcrowded, filthy, plagued by poverty and crime, it was home to thousands of people living in unimaginable squalor. Among them were women forced into prostitution to survive, selling their bodies for pennies to afford a bed in a flophouse. These vulnerable women became the Ripper's targets. Between August and November 1888, at least 5 women were murdered in what became known as the canonical 5 victims: Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. The murders followed a pattern. The victims were all prostitutes, all killed at night or in the early morning hours. Their throats were cut with such force that they were nearly decapitated, and then, in most cases, the Ripper performed horrific abdominal mutilations, removing organs with what appeared to be surgical precision. What made these murders so terrifying wasn't just their brutality, but the speed and confidence with which they were carried out. The killer worked in near darkness, in areas where people could pass by at any moment, yet he was never seen, never caught. He would complete his gruesome work in minutes, then vanish into the maze of Whitechapel's streets like a ghost. The Ripper also taunted authorities. Letters claiming to be from the killer were sent to newspapers and police. One letter, accompanied by half of a human kidney, purportedly from victim Catherine Eddowes, claimed the Ripper had fried and eaten the other half. Whether these letters were genuine or hoaxes remains debated, but they added to the growing hysteria gripping London. Police were overwhelmed. Scotland Yard launched one of the largest investigations in its history, interviewing hundreds of suspects, following countless leads but finding nothing concrete. The crude forensic science of the time couldn't provide the answers they needed. There was no fingerprinting, no DNA analysis, no surveillance cameras. The Ripper had chosen his time and place perfectly. Theories about the Ripper's identity have multiplied over the decades. Was he a doctor or surgeon? Someone with anatomical knowledge? Was he a member of the aristocracy, protected by powerful connections? Was he actually a woman, able to move through Whitechapel without suspicion? Suspects have included everyone from a local barber to Prince Albert Victor, Queen Victoria's grandson, to artist Walter Sickert, to even Lewis Carroll, author of Alice in Wonderland. Modern investigations using criminal profiling and advanced forensic techniques have examined the case, but no definitive answers have emerged. Some believe they've identified the killer through DNA analysis of letters and evidence, but these claims remain controversial and unproven. What we know for certain is that after the murder of Mary Jane Kelly on November 9, 1888, the canonical killings stopped. Did the Ripper die, move away, or simply stop killing? We may never know. Jack the Ripper remains a phantom, a nameless terror who stalked the streets of Victorian London and then disappeared into history, leaving behind only questions and the haunting legacy of unsolved horror. Dennis Rader, BTK. Bind, torture, kill. What makes Dennis Rader truly terrifying isn't just the brutality of his crimes, it's how perfectly he masqueraded as a normal, even admirable member of society. He was a family man, a church leader, a Boy Scout troop leader, and a compliance officer who took pride in enforcing local regulations. For 31 years, he lived a double life so convincing that even his own family had no idea they were living with one of America's most sadistic serial killers. Born on March 9, 1945, in Pittsburgh, Kansas, Dennis Rader grew up in a typical middle-class family. Unlike many serial killers, he had no history of severe childhood abuse or trauma. He was shy, awkward, and struggled socially, but nothing in his early years screamed future monster. What was developing inside him, however, were dark fantasies of control, bondage, and murder that he would later act upon with methodical precision. Rader's first known murders occurred on January 15, 1974, when he broke into the home of the Otero family in Wichita, Kansas. He had been stalking them, knew their routines, and planned everything meticulously. That morning, he cut their phone lines, entered through the back door, and confronted the family at gunpoint. Joseph Otero, his wife Julie, and 2 of their children, 9-year-old Joseph Jr. and 11-year-old Josephine, were all murdered. The method was horrifying. Rader bound each family member, strangled them with rope, and in the case of young Josephine, hanged her in the basement. This wasn't a crime of passion or rage. It was calculated, methodical, and served only to fulfill his twisted sexual fantasies. After the murders, Rader calmly left the scene, went about his day, and returned to his normal life as if nothing had happened. Over the next 17 years, Rader would kill at least 6 more people in the Wichita area. His victims were primarily women, though he showed no particular pattern in victim selection beyond opportunity and vulnerability. He would stalk his targets, sometimes for weeks, learning their schedules and habits. He would break into their homes, cut phone lines, and surprise them with overwhelming force. Then he would live out his fantasies of binding, torturing, and ultimately killing them. What made Rader different from many serial killers was his need for recognition. He wanted the world to know about his work, to acknowledge his power. In 1974, shortly after the Otero murders, he sent a letter to a local newspaper claiming responsibility and giving himself a nickname, BTK, which stood for Bind, Torture, Kill. Over the years, he would send multiple letters and packages to police and media, taunting them, providing details only the killer would know, and reveling in the attention his crimes generated. But then, in 1991, after murdering Dolores Davis, BTK suddenly went silent. He didn't stop because he was caught or because he felt remorse. He stopped because life got busy. His daughter was in high school, he was active in his church, he had responsibilities. The mundane demands of suburban life took precedence over murder. For 13 years, BTK seemed to have vanished, and many believed he was dead or in prison for other crimes. However, in 2004, Dennis Rader's ego got the better of him. When the 30th anniversary of the Otero murders approached, he became frustrated that people had forgotten about BTK. Media attention had moved on to other cases, so Rader decided to resurface, sending new communications to police and media, proving BTK was still alive and still proud of what he had done. This decision would be his downfall. Rader became increasingly bold, even asking police in a letter if they could trace information from a floppy disk. The police, in a stroke of deceptive brilliance, told him no, it would be safe. Rader believed them and sent a floppy disk containing a deleted Word document. Computer forensics recovered metadata from the disk that included the name Dennis and a link to Christ Lutheran Church in Wichita. A simple Google search led investigators to Dennis Rader, president of the church congregation. They obtained a DNA sample from his daughter's medical records and compared it to DNA evidence from the crime scenes. It was a match. On February the 25th, 2005, Dennis Rader was arrested while driving near his home. He was calm, almost relieved, as if he had been waiting for this moment. During his interrogation and subsequent trial, Rader showed no remorse. He spoke about his crimes in detached, clinical terms, referring to his victims as projects and describing his murders as if they were mundane tasks he had completed. He explained his fantasies in disturbing detail, how he had taken photographs and kept souvenirs, how he would relive his crimes through these mementos. He even expressed disappointment that he hadn't been able to kill more people. In August 2005, Dennis Rader pleaded guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder. Kansas had no death penalty at the time, so he was sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole for 175 years. He is currently incarcerated at El Dorado Correctional Facility in Kansas, where he will remain until his death. What makes Dennis Rader's case so chilling is the complete disconnect between his two lives. To his family, neighbors, and community, he was Dennis. Helpful, reliable, maybe a bit rigid and controlling, but fundamentally decent. To his victims, he was BTK, a sadistic predator who derived pleasure from their terror and suffering. He compartmentalized his life so effectively that no one suspected. He attended church on Sundays, enforced parking violations on Mondays, and planned murders on weekends. He was the monster next door, hiding in plain sight for over 30 years. These three killers represent different facets of human evil. Gacy's double life behind a community facade, Rader's perfect mask of normalcy, and the Ripper's enduring mystery. They remind us that monsters don't always look like monsters. They can be your neighbor, your colleague, the person sitting next to you in church. They walk among us until the mask finally slips and the horror beneath is revealed. Thank you for watching this two-part series. If these stories sent chills down your spine, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's darkest corners. And remember, the scariest monsters are the ones who look just like us.